This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, Love and War, Part 7. When we left off in Part 6, Regina had dropped some F-bombs, and then she beat the snot out of Agent Nisha Russian. After Q interviewed L3, Regina asked her oldest baby boy why exactly he didn't want his father in the room during the interview. And whatever he told his mother turned her into Vivica Fox, because she was ready to set it off. And she started it with her own husband. She knocked the Mario coins out of LJ. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, Wise was outside of a house, casing the joint, when he got a text message from his soon-to-be father-in-law, Samuel. Samuel was sitting outside the very same house. He was following the route that the necklace that was stolen off one of the security guards took after the abduction of Melissa. And Wise had followed the former gardener's wife to a shopping center, where she left her car and got in another one. He then followed the blacked-out SUV to a private airstrip. When the man got out of the back seat, he didn't just pull out the gardener's wife. He also pulled out that man's missing daughter. While local law enforcement was running around South Carolina looking for the gardener's daughter, her and her mother were boarding a plane to parts unknown. Wise had Lorenzo on that plane's destination, while he followed the two men in the blacked-out SUV to that safe house. Meanwhile, in Dallas, Q was barely able to pull Regina off of a tired and badly beaten Agent Nisha Russian. And when he did, she turned on him and said, "Let me find out you knew that them two was..." Angela said, "Oh, hell no." And before Q could stop her, she got a couple licks in too. And just as she turned her wrath on LJ, because these wasn't the kind of women who just went after the other woman. They was gonna handle their nigga too. Queen Mother said, "Enough. True, get her out of here before anybody else get any bright ideas and you find yourself interrogating a corpse. And you two with me," talking about Regina and LJ. Q said, "This is a distraction. We need to be focused on finding Melissa." Angela said, "And we are. But you got at least 5 minutes to explain what the hell is going on here." At that moment, Maribel returned from the garden. She was finished licking her wounds. When Angela had come out to find her, she told her everything. How she was feeling, how disappointed she was, and how her love life was turning out. Angela told her to let the cards fall where they may. She said, "Cousin, you're a smart woman, so you don't need any advice from me. But I'd like to share my thoughts. Are you okay with that?" Maribel said, "Of course. I need all the help I can get right now." And Angela said, "From my vantage point, there are only two options here. Donovan or a whole new man. Jeff doesn't strike me as the kind of man who would be problematic. But we already know what Donovan is on. Donovan is probably going to have a hard time accepting the fact that he has another older brother. And he's going to have an even harder time accepting the fact that that older brother is Mr. Steal Your Girl." And they both bust out laughing. Then Angela said, "But seriously, his reaction to all of this is probably going to give you all the information that you need. You'll know for sure whether he's even close to ready for the type of relationship that you deserve. And if his behavior demonstrates that he hasn't truly done the work required to get a full handle of his mental health and be emotionally responsible, then you know what to do. But either way, you are going to have to make it very clear to Jeff where you stand." And Maribel said, "That's the thing. That's not hard for me at all, because I have zero interest in being in relationship with a man who's in the life. I watched my mother be married to the Kingpin. I'll pass." Angela said, "Right. And so you know, there are fine, focused, financially stable, faithful, fun, and men of faith who are out there in this world, who are poised and ready for love, marriage, and a gaggle of children. And one of them is out there waiting for you." So when Maribel walked in, Q was in the middle of telling Angela, "Love, I can't tell you what went on with LJ and Russian, because I don't know." And Angela said, "Right, because he didn't tell his best friend." Maribel said, "What did I miss?" "You know what? Never mind. I don't have time for this. I have a laboring mother at the hospital, and I'm going to need to get there soon. So I don't know who's next, but it needs to be me, because I got to go." Q takes Maribel into the interview room, but first he tells True to go ahead and get Agent Nisha Russian out of there. and the gloves are off. True and several guards have to pick up an unconscious Agent Nisha Russian from the floor, unhandcuff her from the chair, blindfold her, and carry her to a waiting SUV. They then transport her to a safe house. And True says, let the games begin. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, Melissa and the gardener are still underground. And he asked, why on earth do you have all of this stuff down here? Melissa said, because I knew that you were coming. Well, I didn't know that it was going to be you specifically, but I knew that somebody was coming. And I figured that I should be prepared. The man said, well, what did you put on my bite wounds? And when she told him, he said, and you knew you were going to need that too? But how? Melissa said, God. The man said, you heard God's audible voice tell you that you need to prepare all of this stuff and have it down here because somebody was coming for you and they were going to have bite wounds that you were going to need to treat. Melissa said, of course not, silly. I had dreams, lots of dreams, and they told me what would happen and what I would need to do. The man asked, but why did you believe the dreams would actually come true? That's just crazy. Melissa said, trusting God can never be crazy. If what he says is going to happen doesn't happen, that just means that he changed his mind and something else is going to happen. And even if that happens, I still trust him because he's God and he gets to change his mind. The great thing is, so do we. We all get to change our minds. You've made up your mind that if you get caught, you're not going to tell anything. But you can change your mind. The man said, if I get caught, I'm going to jail for a very, very long time. And that's going to give the people who are behind this too many opportunities to make me regret opening my mouth. So I'm keeping my mouth shut. Melissa said, but what about your daddy? Doesn't he deserve to see you get your life together? The man said, what the hell are you talking about? What do you know about my father and my relationship with him? Melissa said, I know that he loves you and he desperately wants to have a relationship with you again. He's been praying for you for a very, very long time. And all he's ever wanted is the best for you to find Christ and for you to come back to the family. And said, well, if I go to jail, he's never going to get what he wants. He's never going to see me again unless it's through some plexiglass. And I know he's not coming to a federal prison to visit me. Melissa said, if you do the right thing, he just might. Now, I'm not trying to scare you, but you keep talking about jail. But you don't know who I am, do you? I'm going to do everything that I can to keep my family from killing you. And the only way that you'll live to see a jail is if I'm successful. But I got this uncle whose elevator doesn't go to the top floor. And I have this strong feeling that he's coming for me and you. Meanwhile, in Dallas, Maribel has wrapped up her interview with Q and she's told him everything that she knows. All of the questions that Melissa asked her about vegetation in North Carolina, about homeopathic remedies for treating dog bites, and natural remedies for inducing vomiting in dogs. Maribel told her, the only safe way that I'm aware of is using a combination of 3% hydrogen peroxide in milk or ice cream. It has to be equal parts, but if a dog has ingested something that they shouldn't, that's just a stopgap. You'd need to immediately get the dog to a vet. Did Karma eat something that she wasn't supposed to? And Melissa said, no, but one day she will because I can't get people to stop feeding her. Q said, the more I learned, the more I'm convinced that Melissa may very well have gotten away from her abductors. Maribel said, I'd love to hear more about it, but I gotta get to the hospital. Over at the hospital, she successfully delivered the baby and her patient was resting well. While she was scrubbed and gowned during the delivery, there were a lot of bodily fluids, so she decided she'd shower and change at the hospital and then head back over to the estate. She wanted to know what she missed while she was out in that garden, and she wanted to know what all Q had gathered that led him to believe that Melissa had gotten away. She was thinking about all of that while she was in the shower. Since it was smack dab in the middle of a shift, there wasn't anybody in and out of the locker room. When she heard the locker room door open, she was immediately on alert. She was Manny Lopez's daughter, but she figured that whomever was in there was probably a doctor like her who needed to clean up after a surgery or a delivery, and she was just glad that she brought her towel and her robe into the shower room with her, so that way she didn't have to traverse the locker room booty butt naked. Her ears were tuned in to her surroundings, but she was still shocked when the shower curtain flew open and she was under attack. In front of her was a masked woman wielding a scalpel, dressed in a janitorial uniform, and it was on. Butt naked and wet, covered in soap, Maribel was fighting for her life. The female attacker was strong and focused, but she was not prepared for Maribel to fight back and fight like hell. Maribel could tell that this attacker was not a professional. And while she was focused on the fight, she was also gathering information and trying to unmask her attacker. And it was her attempts to unmask her attacker that brought the attack to an abrupt halt. The woman took off, ski mask in place and scalpel still in her hand. And Maribel started screaming for help, or at least to get somebody's attention. She put up a good fight, but she did not walk away without injury. She had defensive wounds all over her arms and hands. Since the woman used a scalpel, those wounds were pretty deep. Maribel jumped out of the shower, threw her robe on, and wrapped her towel around her arms, and then ran out of the shower room and the locker room into the hallway, screaming for help. Meanwhile, at the safe house, several hours have passed, and Agent Nisha Rushing has undergone some intense interrogation, 5 Family style, and she was singing like a damn canary. She'd admitted to overhearing Angela and Q discussing the ongoing issue with the family, especially the children, feeding Karma, which was absolutely counter to Karma's training. A personal protection dog is trained not to eat food that falls on the floor, offered to it from someone's hand other than the dog's owner, or to eat outside of regularly scheduled mealtime, unless it was a snack or a treat being offered by the owner. But being surrounded by such a huge family, it was almost inevitable that everyone just could not resist feeding cute Karma. The Cane Corso was just lovable when she wasn't working. When she was working, she was clearly a beast. True couldn't help herself. She had to find out what was to Agent Nisha Rushing and Elja, and she got that out of Rushing too. Agent Rushing said,
"My job was to find a way into the family, and I couldn't get in through St. James. His wife has him pinbacked, but I could tell that there was trouble in paradise between Regina and LJ. And one day I was at their PI firm. I had a meeting with St. James. Regina and their son L3 had come up to the office, and they had a pretty intense conversation in that office. St. James had sent me to ask LJ a question, and when I got outside the office, I overheard at least part of their conversation. Their son was waiting out in the hall, playing on his tablet and sitting on the couch. I knocked on the door and interrupted their conversation. Regina and their son left. When I went inside, he was clearly still upset about the interaction between him and his wife. So I inserted myself into the issue. Before long, he was confided in me, and I thought he was vulnerable enough for me to make a move. So I did. While he was sitting down, I sat down on his lap, wrapped my arms around his neck, and kissed him. He was trying to get out of my grip, but he couldn't. And when we heard the door open, he jumped up and pushed me down. At the door was his son. He explained, I apologized. He made it very clear to me, in front of his son, that that could never, ever happen again. I left and I never even saw LJ again until today. I don't know how much of that he or his son told his wife, but he said that he was never going to tell her because she was crazy as hell. And clearly he was right. He forgot to mention that she was a damn punk. Cause who the hell hit somebody when they handcuffed?
True said, y'all cops do it all the time. And I do too. And then she slapped the taste out of Agent Rushing's mouth and said, watch how you talk about Gigi. That's my peoples. Agent Rushing said,
I bet you she couldn't take me in a fair one though.
True said, when this is all over, we gonna find out. Then True said into her Bluetooth, did you get all that, Gigi? And back at the estate, Regina said, I sure as hell did. Tell that I'm a seer. Instead of telling Agent Rushing what Regina actually said, True said, Regina said y'all will never know who would win a head up because she wants me to blow your brains out. You ready to meet your maker, Agent Rushing? Agent Rushing believed every word that came out of True's mouth. So she said,
please don't do this. I promise you, Melissa was never ever supposed to actually be in danger. Matter of fact, she's not even in danger right now. The people who came to abduct her don't even have her. She got away.
True said, don't play with me. Agent Rushing said,
I'm not. I promise. I swear to God. She got away. They looked for her everywhere. They couldn't figure out where she went. My job was to find out as much as I could to help them figure out where she is. They were literally just supposed to hold her. I was supposed to save the day, rescue her, get a promotion.
True said, but why? Why would any of this be necessary? Then Rushing said,
I would be in position to keep the agency and St. James off their necks. Because St. James is on the trail, the head of an international trafficking organization. He's a lot closer than he even realizes. They've gotten away with so much for so long because of how they manage their organization. The organization is full of unwilling participants. Get dirt on you that they know you can't live with ever coming out. And then they make you do things that you would never, ever have done voluntarily.
True said, and what do they have on you? When Agent Rushing refused to tell True what they had on her and who they were, True said, don't worry about it. Then she left her in the hands of the 3 Baptiste soldiers and headed back to the estate to tell Q everything she knew. At the estate, LJ and Regina were wrapping up their discussion about the situation between him and Agent Nisha Rushing. Regina said, you better count your lucky stars that her story and your story are in alignment. And with all that's going on, I'm feeling a little forgiving. But you gonna have to make it up to me, buddy. And I'm gonna respect your wishes and stop using all this profanity. But when True done with her, I'm gonna rearrange the furniture on the inside of her. And why in the hell was you pillow talking with this broad? You don't know her like that. Now, I don't have no problem with you discussing our issues with Angela, because that's fam. But some random FBI agent chick running around here looking like some damn Baywatch hottie, and ain't no way you couldn't have got her little behind off your lap. She should have had to collect her behind and her taste up off the damn office floor. And I'm none too pleased that you had the audacity, the unmitigated gall, to tell my son to keep something from me. LJ said, babe, I was just shocked. I was thrown off. My legs was pinned under the desk. I still don't even know how she maneuvered herself onto my lap. Then she had a vice grip around my damn neck. I had my teeth clenched and I was pulling her with my whole might. If L3 didn't come in the office, I was gonna punch her in the head. The Queen Mother chuckled and LJ said, I'm serious, my dear. And her breath stunk. She cute and all, but hygiene is important. Regina said, oh, so you think she cute, huh? LJ said, she's stereotypically cute. She ain't got nothing on you. I love you, Regina. You crazy as hell, but you all mine. And I'm all yours, girl. I didn't keep this from you because I enjoyed it or I wanted to double back or no crazy stuff like that. I kept it from you because I wanted to keep you out of jail. I don't care who behind you whoop. You whoop all the behind you want to. But beating up a federal agent wasn't going to turn out good. Especially when your man checking for you, girl. Come on now. Regina said, well, considering all the things you was complaining about a few weeks ago, I'm not feeling all that loved and appreciated, LJ. LJ said, yeah, I got some complaints, but so do you. We've been together for a long time. People change, things change, and adjustments are necessary. But we making them, babe. And ain't nothing going on between me and you that we can't work out. I'm not going nowhere. You held me down when I was on my deathbed. Kept me together when my mother died. You helped me navigate my sister's mental health situation. You stood by me when I got injured and had to leave the police department. When I ain't have 2 nickels to rub together. You paid all the bills. And you've always supported my dreams. Another woman ain't got nothing I want.
Baby, don't mind her business. Ask 50 questions, still be suspicious. She only comes second to the Lord.